Good morning, everyone. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see your faces. I'm trying a new headset. Can you guys hear me? Can you not? Yeah, no. Great. Thank you.
It's actually great,
Ash, are you
thanks.
there, hun?
I'm here. Can you hear me? I just unmuted myself.
All right. Awesome. It's so good to see everyone's faces here. I just saw Paul was vacuuming. I want to invite him over to my house. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see everyone's faces. Brian and Kate, I've got like the full and Chelsea. You guys are all kind of like flashing here. Feel free to turn on your videos if you want. We'll keep the audio off for now, but just to reduce background noise. But there's Kelly Smiley. Where's Maya? Is she? Oh, there she is. She's not far. Oh, it's so good. And there's Ariel. Hello. And Carolyn. Oh my gosh, this is really awesome. And Sandy, what you eating, honey? Can I have a bite? Want to nibble? Oh, this is really great. Oh, good. And Brooke is here. Amazing. How fun. This is just, oh, there she is. Hi. All right. Wow, what a crew. Ashley and I were just talking about how it's been really sweet to be able to connect with you all on a consistent basis throughout all of this. It's like just a real light like bit in my week to get to see each and every one of you. And there's Christy and Sabrina. Oh my gosh, I love it. It's so fun. Um, I don't think I can see everyone. Everyone's kind of popping all over the place. Okay, so just to take care of a few little nuts and bolts, the housekeeping things. First of all, I'm Meg McCraken, for those of you guys that haven't met me before. And then over here on my right and down one is the lovely Ashleigh Sergeant. If you say something, I think
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah,
Okay, good. Okay, I have my
yeah.
new headset on too. Hi everyone. Nice to see all your beautiful faces. I see some new folks and familiar names here. Hi.
Oh no, so fun.
Welcome,
Oh, there's
welcome.
Sabrina's face. Yay. Hi, Annie. This is
Jenna's
really awesome.
here. Kenan is here. Welcome, Kenan. Welcome, Jenna.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, and there's Jen. Okay, good, good, good. I thought I
Travis.
saw
Travis.
Travis here. Nate's
Yep.
here. Okay, good. There's Travis. Hey
Hey,
there.
Travis.
Awesome. And
Music
of course,
tonight.
Michelle is here, our backbone of our whole school right now. She's here in my lower right-hand corner. So wild. The new circle 2.0 is like in these little squares on my screen. So today the whole call will kind of look like this. First of all, and there's Trey, he's back, great. Um,
Perfect.
so when you guys log in, I think you guys are all already there. You're muted when you log in. Feel free to turn on
There's
your,
Jenna's face.
there she is.
Sorry.
Uh,
Yay.
Yay! Feel free to turn on your videos if you want. You don't have to, but if you want, there's Alice. Hi, Alice. If
Meg.
you want, it's really nice to be able to see your faces, but if you don't want to, it's totally fine as well. But keep your audio muted unless if later on we'll have some discussion, and then at that stage in the game, you can unmute yourself when we call on you. But first of all, let's just go through this. If you go down to the bottom of your screen, a little bar will pop up, and you can see who's on the call by hitting participants. And then you can also open the chat window by hitting chat. So if you have something that you want to just type into the chat bar at any time, you can certainly do that. This morning, what we'll do is we'll have a little discussion, and then we'll go through a little bit of a meditation, and then we'll open it up for just sort of a discussion between all of us. And if at that stage in the game you wanna chime in, there's a place, and I can't see it because I'm the host of the meeting, but I think over here when you go over to yourself on the participants, there's a place that you can hit raise hand. Is that true, Ashley? Is it on the participant thing? Okay, so you can raise your hand, and then we can scroll through and call on you, and then we can unmute you, or you can unmute yourself. So that's how we'll manage that, so we're not speaking over and on top of each other, and we don't have a whole lot of background noise for the whole call. How fun. This is really, really wonderful. And I don't know, I think Ashley last time told you how you could change your view, I think up at the top. you can change your view. You can go to speaker view, or you can, mine's right now at a big grid view, so I can see all of your faces, which is what I prefer. I see myself enough. I'd rather see you at the moment. So it kind of feels like sitting in a circle, you know how like when we normally get together and everyone's together, that's kind of how I feel right now, which is really awesome. So we'll go ahead and get started. Let me make sure I already hit record, which I did. I have a big note here to remind me of that. So the last few weeks have been pretty wild, and we've actually started to I pull a thread throughout all of these calls, and it hasn't been necessarily planned beforehand. It's just kind of happening as we are all, you know, kind of called to a halt and called to turn inside and really assess where we are in ourselves and in our lives and in the world. And you know, a few weeks ago, we talked about where it is that we have found ourselves to be out of alignment with ourselves, with those in our lives around us, with the earth, and just with a greater picture of things. And then last week, Ashley led us through a really beautiful contemplation on complication and simplicity, and how we've made our lives so complicated, and where it is that we can simplify, and what it is that we can milk from the simplification process, and how truly everything that we really need is all just right here, and it's just a matter of attuning to it in the simple ways. You know, just to borrow an old kind of catchphrase, is how do we acknowledge the extraordinary and the ordinary? And so last week with Ashley, we really kind of put a little fine comb through our lives to see where it was that we could simplify. And today, we really want to turn the corner and talk about something that I think that is a want for all of us, which is to lead vital and meaningful lives. If that's not a want for you, you could raise your hand. But I feel like everybody, to some degree, wants to live a vital and meaningful life. And what did somebody say? No, I don't want to. No. Okay. So I think what we found over the past few weeks is the way that we've been going about that hasn't necessarily been A, in alignment, or B, the most skillful. The way that we've gone about trying to live a vital and meaningful life has led us to a place of distraction and depletion, and quite honestly, perhaps a way that has been harmful to ourselves, to others in our lives, and into the earth itself. And so we're starting to recognize that we have perhaps been out of alignment in a lot of different ways. And yet we still have this deep urge to live a vital and meaningful life. And that urge is really primal in all living things. You know, what I want to unpack here this morning with all of us today is this teaching of Dharma and Svadharma. And so if you've never heard these terms before, it's really not a problem. We'll just go through them pretty quickly right now. And it really is a simple concept, or it's a simple truth. And so it really doesn't take much to unpack. So Dharma, when we talk about Dharma, it's spelled D-H-A-R-M-A. When we talk about Dharma, what we're talking about is the greater universal unfolding of the greater picture of life, the greater unfolding of the universal patterns. When we're talking about Dharma, we're talking about how the seasons turn from one to the next, and how each season has its rightness, and the turning of seasons is right and correct, and how we all have seasons in our lives that we're living through. It's the Dharma that talks about how, you know, the stars are aligned and how we're oriented within that starscape. Dharma is about how the tides rise and fall, and, you know, the moon waxes and wanes, and how things live and how they die. And there's this greater order to things. And that's what we mean when we talk about Dharma. Does that make sense to you guys? I can see you can nod, or you can say no. Yeah, okay. Now Svadharma, it's the word in front of Dharma now, S-V-A. Svadharma, it just means self-dharma. So we have this greater picture and pattern of life and living, and we are not separate from that. We're a part of all of that. And so our own Swadharma is how we fit in to this greater unfolding of things, and how there is a rightness to the way that we move through life, and to the rightness to our own personal seasons in life. I like to think about it through the lens of Tantra, which is what I study. And Tantra actually means to weave. Well, there's a few different definitions, but one of the definitions is to weave. And when I think about Dharma, I think about the great tapestry of life itself. And when I think about Swadharma, I'm thinking about my one thread in the greater tapestry of life that I have been tasked to weave in this life. And that thread is vital and essential and important. And but it's not sufficient. That's not the whole thing, right? So I have one thread that I have been tasked to weave throughout this life, throughout my life, that's going to contribute to the greater tapestry of life and living. But so when I look at it from this way, my one thread has to do with the universal unfolding of things, and not just my own personal selfish desires. And we'll get into desire and joy and stuff here in a minute, but that's, to me, what Swadharma is, if I could put it into a metaphor. And so it acknowledges that I have a piece and a part, but it does not end with me. It acknowledges that that it is to some degree about me, but in the same breath, I have to say that none of this is about me. It's all about the greater good. And so really what we want to talk about today is, how do we align with our own Swadharma so that we are in alignment with the greater Dharma of things, and so that we can, when we are aligned with our Swadharma, it feels like we are living those vital lives of meaning that we were meant. And, a lot of times I feel like when I am really up in my head about things, I am more aligning with my own personal kind of will versus the universal will that's trying to speak through me in a different way. And so when I live up in my head a lot, my head likes to rationalize things. It likes to reason things out. And it likes to help me find excuses for or against certain things. And to some degree has me excused from living the life of meaning that I was meant. And when I come into my heart space, I can align with a more integrated truth that knows that I am not excused from this life of love and meaning that I'm meant. And it won't let me rationalize a different kind of way. And what I feel like we all are finding ourselves in right now is we've rationalized ourselves to a way of thinking, to a way of acting, and to a way of being that's out of alignment with our Swadharma and Dharma. And so we oftentimes can feel like we are not living the vital and meaningful lives that we are meant. So Ash, I don't know if you have something that you want to add to that, love, before we go into meditation, but I'd love to hear from you on that.
Hi, everyone. I love that, Meg. I just have one little thing to add that my teacher used to say that I really enjoy. Was he would say that when your Dharma becomes your Swadharma, so meaning it's kind of just another way of saying what Meg was saying, is that we could be living our Dharma, meaning living like our role in life, right? Like the thread that we, our piece and part that we play in it. Like we're kind of doing that no matter what, whether we're being conscious of it or not, but sometimes it becomes this, how to say, it can just become kind of like the cog turning the wheel, like there isn't so much like juice or so much awareness to it. Like we're playing our part in the world, but we feel a little bit more perhaps just subject to it rather than sovereign over it or like conscious of it. He says when our Dharma, so like our role in life, becomes our Swadharma, or when our Dharma is our Swadharma, when we create it, we take what our role is in life and we actually infuse it with our desire, our purpose in life. That this is when we drop into our Swadharma. And so it's really this infusing of meaning and infusing of purpose into our life that allows us to really step into our swadharma, meaning that like it isn't this like other thing that you have to go out and get, that you're like, oh my God, I have to like go find my swadharma. I've been doing something my whole life and turns out it's just this other thing. Now I have to go. No, it's that we create and tune into and step into our swadharma by infusing meaning into our life and purpose into that. And that's how it like ignites our individual thread, right? That's how we begin to live on purpose. And so he said, when your dharma becomes your swadharma, work becomes play, you know? And for me, this like has stayed with me, and I think of it as a mantra all the time, you know, when we can get into our heads, and even if a lot of us here do what we love, right? Still doesn't mean that we don't get in our heads and it doesn't feel like work. I think we're experiencing this in our culture right now, that we've been working so much that in a lot of ways we've actually forgot how to play, or forgot how to just feel and infuse the meaning and the sweetness and the pleasure and the joy into everyday life. And then that's the cultivation of the swadharma. Life gets to be play. So that's all I want to share.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it's really important too, because this is what I want to go into in the meditation, is like, how does that intelligence that speaks through all life, how does it speak to you? And a lot of times it speaks to us through joy, through play, through, you know, and that's how we understand that, oh, right, this has the juice. This is the way for me. You know, that same intelligence that is getting the birds to fly north in the springtime, that same intelligence is weaving through you. And how does it speak to you? You know, does it speak to you through joy? Does it speak to you through words? How does it speak to you? You know, how do you know that this is in alignment? How do you know that? And everybody does know, because you can feel it and you can know it. There's a really beautiful Helen Keller quote, and she said, to behave like free spirits in the presence of fate is strength undefeatable. I mean, the whole quote actually starts like this. It's longer than that. She says, security is mostly a superstition and does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men experience it as a whole. Your life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. So to behave like free spirits in the presence of fate is strength undefeatable. So this is what we're talking about, to behave like a free spirit, like what Ashleigh is talking about, to choose and to infuse your life with meaning in the presence of fate, in the presence of your dharma, in the presence of your spa dharma, in the presence of that, in the presence of this bigger picture. That's strength, that's life undefeatable. That's a life of vitality and meaning. And I think that we know when we're not there because we don't feel vital. And even in these times when, you know, vitality doesn't always have to look like, yes, I'm so excited to be alive today. Sometimes it's like, I can be vitally sad, you know, and I've gone through some of this in this whole process, you know, here with my family and here in these times, to still be vital and be able to be in a state of deep grief and sadness, to be in a state of frustration as I'm coming up against this pattern. I've been seeing it here, you know, while I'm home with my daughter. This is what I'm really working with right now. I'm coming up this deep ancestral pattern where I can see myself becoming my mother with my daughter. And that's a pattern that I'm trying to evolve into the next level. So even being able to understand when Lily and I are coming up against frustration and I take on the old role of what my mother took on and her mother and her mother's mother and, you know, on and on and on, I can still, it doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel like, yay, this is so awesome. And that's really vital, but it feels really, I can be present with that and it feels really meaningful. because now this new thread that I'm weaving into our family's tapestry is a little bit different. So when I say a vital life, I'm not just saying like, oh, yay, it's all awesome and it's all wonderful. But it has life, it has juice to it, it has meat, it has meaning. So I just want to put it out there as it's not necessarily all going to be like rainbows and unicorns. We can, you know, when we're in alignment, we can meet these things with a sense of strength, with a sense of, like Ashleigh was saying, purpose, and with a sense of real truth. To like own like, oh wow, I'm sad about the ways that I've been unconsciously parenting. I am frustrated with the way that it's been unraveling. And I also understand that with these threads of the past, I have the capacity right now to weave a new future for my daughter and for my family and for my great-great-granddaughters yet to come. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that, you know, when we're in alignment with Dharma and Swadharma, it doesn't mean like it's only the times that you felt really happy or really just like, yay, it's all great. Sometimes yes, but sometimes no. It's even in the hard places where you feel held. It's in the tough places where you're like, okay, I've got this. And it's in that, and it's in those moments. It's like, you know, when those geese are flying north through the storms are not, and they might have to ground themselves for a while. It doesn't mean that they don't exist, but they still have this drive forward. They still know, you know, what is the next step to do. They still know what is the next place to go. Does that make sense? See, now that I can see you guys, I can start asking that again. Yeah. So, so let's take it inside. Let's take it into a meditation. So just take a moment to find your seat. Just one that feels really resonant with you. So it might be on the floor, it might be on the chair, it might be on the couch. That's the one thing that I do know is that I don't know for you, but I know 100% that you do. So being able to feel into resonance for you is really important. And then I'd like to begin with a mudra that I use literally all the time. And it's called Vajra Pradama Mudra. So you just interlace your hands like this. It's just a hand gesture. And you lay your palms flat on your chest with the thumbs pointing up. And this is the gesture of trust. So just allow your eyes to close and allow the weight of your hands, the weight of trust, to settle on your chest, to permeate your heart. And experience a sense of spaciousness between your teeth in your jaw. Experience a sense of spaciousness between the shoulders and the ears. Experience a sense of spaciousness in the head, between your temples and between the forehead and the back of the head. Spacious and soft. Experience a sense of spaciousness in the belly of the throat, in your voice. And experience a sense of spaciousness in your chest, in your vast and unbound heart. And allow your attention to land and to spread there in the heart space. Simply for a few moments, feel the beat of your physical heart beneath the palms of your hands. Experience the gentle rise and fall of your breath beneath the palms of your hand. Simply experiencing a sense of trust as the breath weaves in and as the breath weaves out. Just keeps weaving through you. Experience a sense of trust in the dynamic, ever-changing nature of the breath. Its origin, its manifestation, its dissolution, and its complete surrender. Allowing the breath to be the teacher, showing you something of the impermanence of all things, the dynamic, ever-changing nature of all things. Simply opening yourself up to experience the trust in the greater universal order that allowed dawn to break free from the night and the sun to rise. That will in turn allow the sun to set, the night to fall, and the moon to rise. That gives rise to the spring that recedes the tides. And take your seat here in the universe, amidst 10 trillion stars. Trillions of living beings, infinite life. Take your seat here amidst it all. And trust that the same intelligence that is pushing the flower up through the ground to blossom, and that will eventually take it back to the earth, the same compass that guides the birds north in the springtime and back south when it's over. That same intelligence lives in you and guides you too. And gives you breath to do your weaving. To work and to play as you were meant in this life. This life that was meant for you. Just feel your breath beneath the palms of your hands. Experience life breathing you, choosing you. Simply give your whole self over to each breath here in the heart space. You might have to invite your attention back to the breath, to the heart 10,000 times, and that's okay. In fact, every time you wander off and wander back, you're getting stronger with your capacity for alignment, for presence, for listening. See if you can draw into your heart the last time that it was clear that this intelligence was alive in you, awake in you, the last time you really knew you were in resonance, in alignment. It might be a recent time, it might be a long time ago when it was really obvious to you that you were in alignment, consciously weaving your thread in the great tapestry. It might not have been an easy time, but just call that into your heart now. And just notice how that feels. Notice how resonance and alignment, how weaving your thread, notice how it feels. Where do you feel it? How do you feel it? How does this vital intelligence that speaks through all things, how does it speak to you? Does it speak to you in words or in feelings, in a sense of support, joy? How do you recognize it? When you're weaving your thread? And how does it feel when you consciously walk, consciously inhabit the life that was meant for you? Draw your awareness to the place where that intelligence feels most alive and awake for you. Perhaps it's in the heart space here beneath the palms of your hand. Maybe it's in the belly. Maybe you feel it in just a general, pervasive sense in every cell, and just a general way of being. And allow your awareness to inhabit that place. Allow the breath to thread through there. And simply drop in the question, what matters? What matters most right now? This one point in time in your wild and wondrous life, what truly matters? If God forbid this were your last day on the earth, what will have mattered most right now? What makes life meaningful for you right now? And as if you could gather up that thread of intelligence right here in the palms of your hands. Fold your hands like a prayer at the center of your heart. This is the mudra of blessing. This is the mudra of offering. And in the palms of your hands, you hold your thread and your capacity to weave and to bless this world and this life with your one thread. May you weave it without excuse. May you work and may you play and weave it well. And may it be woven with mine and with Ashleigh's and with everyone else's here on this call, with everyone else's here on this earth. May it be woven within the great tapestry of all life. May it be woven well. You can allow your head to drop, your heart to lift, and your hands to softly open. Allow your eyes to softly open. Just receptive to the outer world and the inner world, for this is what you have to weave with. Whatever is for you here in your life now, this is what you have to weave with. Thank you so much for sitting in meditation. With all of us, I'm so surprised through this avenue of online world, how your presence can be felt, and how really sweet it is to be able to do this together. It really feels profound in a different kind of way than when we're in our in-person circles, but it's really sweet. So I want to open this up now for us for the next 15 minutes or so. We'll end about five minutes early to talk to you guys about about just some future plans, but I want to open it up for the next 15 minutes or so for us to just share. I'd really like to know how your spirit speaks to you, how this intelligence, whatever you call it, whatever you name it, how this intelligence, how it speaks to you. And I want us to hear how vastly different it can be for all of us, or perhaps even the same. For me, I know like that intelligence speaks to me when I feel this sense of unfiltered presence. There is just like this clarity. It's not necessarily words, but there's just this clarity of presence that when I really in resonance and when I can really feel intelligence speaking through me, it comes forth as this really clear presence that also feels very, very held. A presence where I'm not necessarily leaning forward, but a presence where I rest back and feel the support of just like, it just feels like the support of 10,000 years behind me, 10 billion years behind me. And so that's how it speaks through to me. So I'm curious if any of you guys want to share how intelligence speaks to you, or how you recognize it. You could just raise your hand. Do you know? How do you know it's intuition versus just information in your head? How do you know? Carolyn, okay. And then I'll come to you, Kelly. I saw Carolyn raise her actual hand. Okay, Carolyn, go ahead, honey. Hi.
I just feel a different feeling. It's a feeling that just sort of fills my whole being. And it's a very calm feeling. It's a feeling different than any other feeling. And it's just what I strive to feel whenever I can, through meditation or sex, even, those moments where you just feel so connected to the universe. You just feel the presence of the all.
Love it. That's wonderful. Just connected and calm and integrated. It's really beautiful. And it's a different, you're right, it's a different kind of feeling, huh?
Yeah, it's a different kind of feeling. And thank you for bringing us to that so many times in my life. You brought me to that place, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Really, I'm so grateful.
Thank you, honey. Thank you so much. Okay, and Kelly, wait, hold on. I was going to mute Carolyn, and then we can do Kelly, and then we'll do Kimberly. Okay, unmute. Did I get you, Kelly? Yeah, I lost you. Where are you, Kelly? Can you unmute you? Okay, there you go.
There we go.
Okay.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Thank you, Meg. That was beautiful. I feel, and it comes in waves, just like everything else, but when I feel this pure connection to my intuition, which is this, and then is aligned with the intuition of the universe, is I feel this like wave of electricity, and it's usually when my arms or the hair on my arms stand up, and then I get this wave of emotion. I'm a very emotional being anyway, so I usually get just this wave of emotion, and usually it comes out in tears, and sometimes it's tears of sadness, and sometimes it's tears of joy and happiness. And it's just, I think when they start to pour, I feel more connected to everything when I let them come, instead of like stuffing them down. And then I feel like once I've had a good cry, everything just seems to kind of the blurred vision starts to become clear, I want to say. Yeah.
I love that it comes to you through that, like you said, the electricity and stuff, but then it's sort of like physical manifestation is tears. They're so beautiful. Tears they speak so much to so many things. And yeah, thank you for sharing that, honey. Okay, and then Kimberly, I'll unmute you, love. Kimberly, where are you? There you are. Oh, hold on, I don't think I unmuted you. Hold on. Oh wait, I can't hear you. Can anyone hear Kimberly? No, I don't think your audio is working, honey. I don't know if your audio is working.
In the
Maybe
bottom
it's
left-hand corner. I don't know if Kimberly, if you can see that yours says audio in the bottom left-hand corner.
maybe what we'll do, Kimberly, is if you play with your audio a little bit, I'll call on oh yeah, there you go. Okay, done. Yes.
Thank you for doing this. This is just absolutely wonderful. And I relate a lot with you, Kelly, about the tears and the emotions. And usually when I'm speaking from my intuition, I'll actually get a lot warmer. There'll be a sense of warmth. There'll be tears. There'll be emotions. A lot of times after I'll speak, I'll say like, who said that? I didn't say that. And sometimes it'll even come through in an accent. And it's really strong, and it's words that I don't normally use. And so it's vocabulary words that are just coming, like filtering through me. And afterwards, I'll just be like, I think that you should listen, because that wasn't me. That was a direct line from spirit. And it's like, it doesn't even feel like it's me speaking. And afterwards, I'll be like, wow, that was amazing. And where'd that come from? And I'll be warm, and I'll start crying afterwards, and that's how I know it's like just being filtered right through me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing. I feel like I think it's just important to do a couple of these and just understand how it speaks differently to each of us. There's a couple of people that had written over here, it's like, you don't need to think about it. It's ease and graceful. Who wrote this? Why isn't this not coming up? Oh, Jessica, yeah, it's ease and graceful. It's like running into the ocean or riding a wave. That's just it. It's beyond reason. It's hard to put words to, but it's like, but we recognize it, and something in us really, really knows when that's happening. And then we've got Sindri. I remember someone saying to me once, and it might have been you, Ashley, that intuition offers itself as a gift and it doesn't try to justify itself. Oh, I love that. And other thoughts that come from fear or other places will try to justify themselves. That has always really stuck with me. And I feel like I can feel that just an internal truth that comes as an offering without the need to justify any other noise around it. Yeah, I really, really love that. It is super, super beautiful. And I mean, maybe that also brings us to the next question. And I thought I saw Kate's hand was up here at some stage in the game. Did Kate have to get off? I thought I saw Kate's hand. Maybe not. Maybe I was wrong. Okay.
I'm going to chime in for 1 sec. I'm thinking, as Sindri said that, I'm like, maybe I did say that, but it's one of those experiences that if I did say that, it was definitely coming from spirit, and I don't necessarily remember saying it. And that's kind of a perfect example. Like Kimberly said, like it just sometimes flows through, and you're like, wow, that definitely wasn't coming from my cognitive thinking. But for me, my experience of tuning into spirit and kind of like knowing the difference between thought and story and like swadharma is very much a state of, I want to use the word pleasure, but I want to say that I'm also getting to the experience of pleasure of through a state of surrender. It's kind of like a part of me surrenders, my self-will surrenders, any part of me that was kind of pushing or forcing the issue or resisting the issue or resisting the situation in any sense begins to soften. So there's like a surrendering that happens, a release, a letting go that happens. And then, you know, I want to use the word, and this is, I want to use the word pleasure or joyful or peacefulness or easeful. Like it actually feels really easeful when I'm moving from this space of truth and intuition. Like there is no resistance. The mind isn't necessarily involved. And I was thinking before I was speaking that getting to that space it doesn't mean that there isn't any fear or there, you know, like Meg was saying, like, how do you know if it's just a thought or this deep kind of welling up inside? It's like we might feel called and very clear that like, oh, this is something that I need to do. And that itself might not feel easeful. Like it might be very scary to do that. It might be working through a pattern, an ancestral pattern or something that, you know, feels uncomfortable. It's like, it could still feel uncomfortable, but there's like a sense of excitement or a sense of joy or a sense of, you know, possibility, and kind of like taking that initial step to go do whatever it is can feel like daunting and can feel difficult, but it is like almost like whether it's like you do it and then you open your mouth and the words come out and it's just like you don't even, like time goes away because it just becomes easeful and you're like, I don't even know what I said, or you jumped into the water or you did the thing, and it then, like the whole experience of it is so easeful and is so pleasurable, it's almost timeless. But like my point of it was that the leading up to it, the moment to like step into our intuition or step into our swadharma might still be filled with some fear or some excitement or some kind of like, God, I feel like I know that I should do this and I'm like really scared to do it. But then if we can get to that space and move into it, then the experience for me of pleasure, of ease, of just flow begins to unfold kind of really naturally. So.
I feel like too, to, you know, ride on what you're saying, Ashley, is sometimes for me when it's a different kind of fear than a normal everyday fear, but sometimes that's also my trick, like my thing that like, this is my intuition. There's a specific kind of sensation that would fall probably under fear, but that is like, oh, that's how I know that I need to do this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like there's this certain like flavor of uncomfortability that I don't know, I guess that's just maybe the word of, it's just a flavor of uncomfortability that's a little bit different than some of the others. That's like, that's how I know that that's where I need to go. Sometimes it has that little bit of a rub for me and I'm like, okay, I know that I have to go this way. I don't necessarily want to, but I know I have to.
That little bit of the rub, I find also oftentimes jumps right in as like, here's a whole story about it, you know? Mm-hmm. You know, like in me, like they're like, I'll feel the intuitive nature coming up of like, oh, I need to do this thing. And then there'll be some story that comes in on either why I can't or how I've already figured that out or blah, 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 whatever. I feel like that's another intuition or another like hit of like, oh yeah, this is definitely my intuition speaking, because my, like you touched on earlier, my logical, rational mind is trying to come in here and, you know, you said something a long time ago, Meg, that was like something like, oh, bless your heart. Like that part of myself that's trying to talk me out of it, or that part of myself, like these pieces of us that kind of, whether it's the fear or the anger or the sadness, they kind of arise as a part of ourself that's kind of reaching out to protect us, you know, reaching out to, you know, it's not malicious, and it's, I think we get into the not to go too far down this line, that we get into like, oh, all these things that are maybe like, wrong with us. Like, oh, I'm too angry to do that or too sad to do that. It's like, no, these are just parts of ourselves that are looking out for us, you know, and that when we learn to like hold them there and spacious and have awareness to it. Caroline Meese talks really nicely to this, like, hi, you're all there. Thank you so much. And I'm going to move forward in this way. You know, it's not like we're like chopping off the heads of our sadness or our anger. Like, let that all be there and go like, I hear you, and moving forward.
Yeah.
You know, so thanks for speaking to that, Meg.
When I think that, and I know that we have to be mindful of time too, I think that that leads to the next thing, which is just a contemplation we can leave you guys with, is it's like, we're pointing to what gets, so sometimes we follow the intuition or the intelligence, and sometimes we don't, and neither is wrong or bad or right or better. You know, what we're doing, I mean, it's like to behave like free spirits in the presence of fate. It's like fate's also taking care of it too, you know, but what gets in the way? You know, when, you know, there have been times when I've really strongly felt the pull of intuition to help me to migrate in this direction, and yet I didn't do it. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's really helpful to get really clear on what gets in the way. And I think it's just like identifying, like, you know, just noticing what's there in the details of that story that Ashleigh was just talking about, the story that's there, that's trying to take care of me and protect me and keep me safe, and like, and trying, ultimately just trying to get me love. You know, isn't that what our awkward friend, our little ego, is always trying to do, is just like very awkwardly get us to be loved and accepted. And it's like, aw, little buddy, it's all right, you know, we're gonna be okay. And it's like, so you don't have to be so pissed at your ego then. I mean, that's really what it's trying to do. But just being able to be aware of what gets in the way allows us to, just like Ashleigh said, see it and then be like, okay, yes, I hear your opinion, and I see what you guys are up to, and this is good for all of us. Sadness, all of the committee that's over here. Does anybody have a committee in there? Like the whole committee. It's like, this is good for the whole committee because it's good for the whole universe, like ultimately. And sometimes I have to talk my committee into it so I can continue to follow my intuition without being like hijacked. But I think really getting conscious about what's in the way is really, really helpful to this whole process, for sure. And I know that a couple of you guys have had your hands up for a really long time, and I want to be mindful of time and mindful of that too. Yeah, so Kate, you've had your hand up for a while. I want to unmute you, honey, and let you. I just couldn't find you before. Okay, so you're unmuted, love.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Yes. Hi.
Hi, everybody. You know, I wanted to go back just for a second, Meg, to the analogy that you were using in your opening, and you were talking about birds flying north and migrating north and flying through a storm, and the imagery kind of resonated with me. And as I was seeing it in my mind's eye, I realized that, you know, a lot of the time, you know, if like a bird is flying, migrating, and they're flying through the storm, what they're not doing is saying, why is this so hard? Why is the wind blowing so hard? Why me? Why does it have to be this way? And instead what they do, if you watch them, is they're looking for a current that's either a little bit up or a little bit down that they can coast and fly on and not flap their wings quite so hard. And that carries them, and it allows them to relax and to go as far as they need to go. And oftentimes, you know, the beautiful thing, when they all kind of, you know, do it together, then there's this enormous and gorgeous synchrony and dance that happens in the collective. But even so, to me, it was just sort of thinking about, you know, the days that don't work so well for me are the ones where I feel like I'm flapping my wings really hard, and I'm not sort of in what I was thinking is termed like a deliberate engagement. And it's when I deliberately engage, when I remember to deliberately engage, that I can kind of find that upper or lower current to kind of just coast on, and it's much more comfortable and much more fluid. But you have to remember to deliberately engage, and that means, as you were saying, sort of not being in your head so much, not being not saying, why is the wind blowing so hard in my face, but saying, how can I find the current to coast on? And so that resonated for me in what you said.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kate, for sharing that. You articulated all of that super, super well. I think that the deliberate engagement is the thing, the deliberate engagement of whatever is in your field right now, the deliberate engagement of that, of the current that you're in, so that you find your way through and perhaps to a new current or whatever. But it's so interesting because the deliberate engagement is not necessarily, when we come at it with our attitude, it can't necessarily be to just be like, oh, like you said, like, I just want to get rid of this thing. We have to deliberately engage it with a sense of openness, like, oh, right, because otherwise we don't get to milk the gem. We don't get to mine the gem from whatever turbulence it is that we're in the moment. And guaranteed there's a gem in every single one of those, So being at it to deliberately engage in what is right in front of you and what you're being asked to engage with here in the moment. And that's what brings life alive for you, not trying to be somewhere else and ask like, why me and whatever, So that was really, really well said, Kate. Really nice. Thank you for sharing. Okay. I know that some of you guys are on a time schedule. I'm just seeing there's a couple more hands here. Who else am I seeing here? This doesn't show up really big on my screen. Okay, Chelsea, we just got one more hand. So why don't you go ahead and share, and then we can.
All right. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
As far as what intuition feels like for me, and I've been really grateful to experience it as roots essentially coming up through me, like golden light, and then honestly feeling like a tree in many ways, and just that this energy is flowing through me. On the flip side of that, having experienced that and knowing when something feels right, I can find it hard to really engage when things just do not, when that feeling doesn't come at all. And I'm curious if many other people have experienced that, and it's just like, if you don't find any sense of that feeling, it can be a challenge.
Yeah, you can. And I think a couple of different things, Chelsea, like one of the things is like what Kate was just saying too, sometimes to just deliberately engage what is right before you, even if you don't like it. And then the second thing can also be to just, I lived on a reservation for a while, and on the Salish and Kootenai reservation up in Montana. And one of my dear friends there, I was going through a really turbulent time and intuition was not there. And she gave me this advice. She's like, Meg, a storm doesn't leave its nest, or a bird doesn't leave its nest in the middle of a storm. So to just, nest in sometimes when it's turbulent and you don't know what to do, to just ground down, you're deliberately engaging, you can't find the current, those birds will just get on the ground and chill. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Really is. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's kind of, because it's a double-edged sword. When we know when we're alignment, when we know that it's there, also the absence of that feeling of it can feel so, we can feel so abandoned at times when we're not really tuned into it. We can feel like that we've been dropped to some degree, which you never have been. But it's really interesting when we feel it really strongly, and then when we don't feel it as much. There's too much noise in the foreground, and so we don't feel it as much. We can feel really dropped. But I think just remembering back to the times that we knew that it was there and just know that it's there, it helps. But thank you for sharing. Yeah. So I know that we have got to, hold on, I was gonna just mute this, got to wrap up for the day. But what I want you guys to think about though is moving forward throughout the course of the week, continue to do your best to listen and to find it. And even if you didn't know, you're like, I'm not sure, that's okay. Be in the unknown with it and call it forth. Call forth your intuition, call forth that intelligence, and be patient and pay attention. I mean, I think that that's the biggest thing for me is for a long time, I just wasn't paying attention. I felt like I needed the really big sign. I'm gonna tell you this really short, super funny story. And sometimes I ask the universe for this, but my husband and I were living in Hawaii at the time, and our dear friend who I love to pieces came to visit us. And he was in a turbulent time in his life, and he was trying to decide. He came to visit us, and it was really time for him to go. He came for a couple of weeks, and he'd been there a couple of months, and he couldn't decide whether to go to California to get his Volkswagen bus and deal with things there, or go back out to the East Coast and do this painting job. And he couldn't decide, so he stayed for like a month because he couldn't decide. One day we're out on the beach, we're playing Frisbee, and he's still in this turbulence of, should I stay or, well, what should I do? And a visor washes up on the beach. I'm not kidding you. The visor said, "Get bus." Not kidding. So sometimes I feel like I need to ask the universe for that kind of sign, but it's not always forthcoming. So just pay attention though. Like the intelligence is there. It's always there. So just keep being open and keep paying attention and keep aligning and acknowledge what gets in the way, so that you can really acknowledge that with tenderness and grace and continue to move and weave in the way that you were meant. So Ash, do you have anything that you want to finish up with, hon, before we move on to the webinar?
No. That was beautiful, Meg. I loved it. And Kate, thanks again for the bird analogy. I think that just like landed so much of it for all of us. Thank you. Yeah. And not leaving the nest during the storm. I think that's really important for right now too. So thank you for that.
Yes. Yes. So we would like to let you guys know that at the end of the month, maybe Ashley, do you know what the exact dates are that we're doing this webinar?
You know, I just dropped, so everyone knows, I'll put it in here again. I just put it in the chat window. If you want to take a look at it, that link right there, I'm going to click on it right now and tell you. That is our landing page for the information about the webinar. Letting it load to have the exact dates because they're not in my head at the moment. April 26th, 29th, and May 3rd. So a Sunday, a Wednesday, and a Sunday. April 26th. So not beginning this Sunday, but next Sunday we begin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we'll be going from 3 to 5 in the afternoon. We have tuition based on a sliding scale. It will be done on Zoom. Ultimately, what we're looking at is how to just heart-centered leadership in uncertain times. And I think we mentioned it a little bit last time on the call here. We really want to acknowledge that, you know, leadership, what leadership is, and leadership is each and every one of you on the way that you live your life. You don't have to be the head of something or have this great big platform or whatever to be a leader. You are a leader in yourself and in your life. You are the leader of your own life first of all. And so this is really about what we've been talking about these past few weeks, about how do we align with our intuition, and how do we come into a place where we can lead and walk through our lives in a way that is resonant and is in alignment with the greater unfolding of things. And so it's really about, I mean, we can sit here all day and talk about all of these really, really nice things, and really, honestly, it's not about what we say. It's about how and who we are and who we all become along the way. So, I mean, Ashley and I can say a lot of really nice things, and that can sound really compelling, but really what I invite you more so to do is understand who and how we are, and acknowledge if these are the people that you want to be, you know, studying with or learning from or that kind of thing. And that's what I do with, you know, just anyone in my life. I don't really care so much what they say. I care how they are and how they step forward in their lives and how they walk on this earth in themselves and with each other. And that to me, like, what's the quote that you shared at the top of our page? I love it. It's the Martin Luther King quote.
Martin Luther King quote. It's, "Don't tell me what you believe. Show me what you do, and I'll tell you what you believe."
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah.
It's so good.
And just to like unpack a little bit for a moment on how this will be different than these community calls is that we're going to do practices and work on specific practices and tools that you can use in order to be able to connect into this heart space, you know, exact practices and tools on how to share those insights and bring them into action. as well as we're going to be using Zoom, but there's a cool breakout feature in Zoom. So, it's hard for us to be able to get everyone to share and for all of our voices to be kind of heard here. So what we'll be able to do in the webinar is we'll be able to break everybody into different sets of small groups. So you'll actually work with your group for a little while, and we'll work on kind of real life tactics and real life solutions and things that, and leadership techniques. And again, the whole thing to understand is it's not about being a teacher or being like a perceived leader in your community. That leadership, like Meg said, is about this capacity to lead, meaning like act, infuse meaning into whatever you do in your life from a place of connection to this source. And that's the way that, we really have the capacity to change the world. And not from this like huge feat of, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. And if I don't, keep myself busy all the time, then I'm doing nothing. But no, like the real essential quality of being able to stay connected to yourself and what is meaningful and what is true and what is valuable. And from that space, embody it and live it, And so you guys will get to know each other a little bit more, get a little bit more time to connect with people closer to one-on-one, and then more discussions from there. So take a look, let us know if you have any questions. We will be here again next week with the community gathering. We will continue these. And our desire is to continue to go deeper with you guys in some of these new offerings that we're going to have online. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank you
so
all
much for being here, everyone.
Thank you so much. It was really wonderful to see all your beautiful faces. Okay, we'll see you next week. Bye, loves. Bye.
Good night. It's not good night. Good morning. Good day.
Good morning.
For some people, it is.